이런 게 아니잖아요.
그렇죠. 그리고 분명히 인베 단계에서 사고가 발생했었기 때문에 약간 불안한 흐름이 안 좋아졌다고 보는 게 맞고, 그리핀 입장에서는 계속 두들겨서 결국 이득을 본 거예요. 백사이가 상대적으로 레벨링이 빨랐고 커버 플레이도 적극적으로 하면서 이제 바텀 다이브를 당해서 상대에게 킬을 내준 그런 상황을 만들지 않았지만, 허용하지 않았지만.
But I really want to talk about how well Teddy and Mata are doing, despite all the difficulty though in the bottom lane, and also being down the teleport, and so that means that Teddy, he's going to be a lot stronger in late game team fights.
So I have a pretty specific question that I think you might be best to answer on this, because of course your team has played this duo lane a lot. They chose to push and dive again and again. They were not looking to freeze. I know you love freezing. Is that the right way to play this thing? Because it's been a pressure. The reason there's 75 CS is that Ezreal's never been attempted to be zoned from CS. Do you like that or not, given the sort of game we're in?
I like what they tried to do early on, but then I think after the second failed attempt, that's when you have to start trying to bring it back in. Because look, they're getting no plate damage. They're playing ping pong with Ezreal in bottom lane, and that's not what this duo wants to do.
The alternative is that you're always in flash W into E range for the Talia.
In a long lane.
Pantheon can't be dodged. He can flash W with a target engage. Then Talia doesn't even hit a skill shot. He'll be able to hit it. So the freeze option is there, given that Braum is kind of just wishing the laning phase would end. We didn't see that. The cost is, though, that with lanes pushing, the benefit is you can roam, and there could be a lot of people top.
Well, we're going to get the dive bomb coming in. Lehens does jump, but Khan has a bit of a speed up, and he just canters away, and everything's fine.
Onslaught of Shadows was back up as well, so that felt like a really low percentage play, but it is a high percentage play to outnumber on the top side and get Rift Herald.
Yeah, Shelly available in still a few minutes on those turret plates. Speaking of which, SKT going to get a few down here as Sword turns up. Glacial Fissure will be available.
And one of the things that I really like that they're doing is they're lane swapping 2 minutes prior to the Dragon, utilizing having all the numbers on the left-hand side of the map. They get the Herald, and then they should, in theory, be able to swap back and get that Infernal Drake, convert it with Herald into play.
And it might even be the Bazinga, because you can also put it down and maybe get a free Inferno while people have to defend the Rift Herald charge. There's a potential for a 1-2-3 here that blows open the gold, and we kind of want Griffin to keep this a high-tempo game with their lack of a ranged AD carry and the fact that Ezreal's been farming. I feel like if you're not freezing, you got to go all in on the aggression, and this seems to fit the bill.
Yep, that certainly is that. It's going to be first turret going down, and SKT run out of minions on the bottom side, so that tempo that Griffin do have the advantage in is going to be even higher. Now in a turret, under fire, Shelly's going to be able to tank this one up. Already half health, Demolish procs coming in, and 3 members of Griffin will easily rip this turret apart.
And what's a Hecarim gonna do? He can't even walk up to the minion wave to cue it. Khan watches on in horror.
Well,
at the
Sword's
same
having
time,
the opposite
he hasn't even
problem.
lost the turret.
Sword's holding it,
Everything's fine for this guy.
This is fantastic right now for Griffin. The Infernal's in their favor. They get the top tier 2 economic turret. Shelly, I don't know if she just got one more charge, but now they're going to have priority in tempo leading into the second Infernal Dragon with a kill composition.
And I'm so happy that they didn't listen to LS's brain and freeze. No freezing allowed. Because you know what Papa Smithy likes? Aggressive League of Legends. I've been saying it and shouting it. I like to see the IG plays.
Into the
I like to see G2 because there's so much gold in the early game that disappears at 14 minutes. If you don't pick up the turret plates, sorry, that gold is lost to time. And right now, Griffin is not going to push on to the full 15, but they're going to look to get as many turret plates as possible and double Inferno. So we got the early, we got the late, we got the cake, we ate it too, we blogged about it. Everything's coming together for the side of Griffin.
Yep, and you got heaps of revenue from the ads on your blog. Oh man, everything's coming up. Griffin in this particular series. Can they actually lock down the Infernal Drake is our next question. Like you were talking about, should have been able to get a reset, get themselves over there. But SKT weren't even able to get one turret, so they can just theoretically go back into a laning phase now where a horse has nowhere he can safely be.
And this strategy, the fact that it's against Ezreal, who's pushing outside of level 1, is quite weak. is it wrong that I'm sitting here and once again remembering a Jungle Heimerdinger game? Because this is a strategy, Frostmancy in general, people don't like because it kind of breaks the game. All the AP support bot lane players like, you're ruining my item, like I might not be able to use this the way I like to use it, because it's an exploit of something in the game, but it's there for everyone to use. No one in Korea, especially, apart from BBQ Olivers, have been making these plays, and now Griffin have just more gold, and the potential with the quest soon to be cashed in for even more gold, then it really, it shouldn't be 24,000 gold in the game at 13 minutes, but here we are. Griffin are really pushing the boundaries of the current meta.
And Griffin are really looking like they want to just get this Infernal Drake, and I want to point out something interesting about Sylas.
Okay, Kali's
Anh rồng.
here, so we'll hold on to that.
He has teleport too.
SKT, they should
Đây
be
là
able
đến
to
từ
this one
Chúa.
down is taken by Cliff very close as Tarzan tries to launch forward. Realm Warp gets SKT out of there, but have they gone far enough? The man drop comes forward, doesn't do too much. Onslaught shadows into the back line as Sword gets himself into his Zhonya's. Can he escape? The answer is yes. The dash comes back up, and now Viper is here to give him some cover fire. Griffin, they make it out, but SKT, they don't lose anyone.
And great
pha lao
time
vào.
from the Zone. It's because we got an engaged Sylas. He just wants to get in the back line and be a pseudo tank. He's got no Alistar ult to steal. He's just about contesting backline and forcing fights that look unlikely, given the fact that outside that the engage isn't so strong.
Yeah, and Griffin right there, you saw that they wanted to take that team fight. They used Sylas's teleport. The Pantheon ult wasn't quite in range, and so the engage was a little bit wonky. SK Telecom managed to get away on Scathe, almost got turned on, but not quite. They find themselves with an Infernal, and another one's coming up next.
And I'm gonna actually accentuate your flame. I feel like this Pantheon's ulting like a support player and not like a carry. You gotta ult under the turret, you gotta give them no escape, but two
Playing
ults
like
in a row. I've been a little bit too defensive. 60 health odd on the Infernal, almost a
Một
completion
kill
here.
của ba xe ông.
Almost in a row.
Một kill
Against
của
a team who's looking to scale, and they don't actually
Sylas.
gain anything through all of these buttons being pressed.
Yeah, this is the second time now
Mất
he's
tốc biến đến
ulted
từ
where they
Sylas.
were rather than where they'll be. And so how much experience does it really have on the Pantheon? You have to wonder, seeing these ultimates, what's going to happen later on in the game, because the ultimates are going to become really important.
And I love that you bring that up, because how many games can you scrim with this before you scrimmed it too much?
Trên nhiều ba cái tiền.
Exposed it. People aren't supposed to talk, but everyone is human. Things get out. You have to be very specific about how often and how you prep. We heard the listening with Double Lift and Core JJ talking about how they hadn't played the trio of champions that got them over the line, the Sona, Taric, X, over the line, more than just 1 or 2 scrims. And that's the reality is, there's a chance he has less than 9 scrim games on Pantheon support, let alone anything more.
That being said, Pantheon isn't necessarily the most difficult champion to play.
Hey, for a support player, it's quite different. He has to CS.
Oh, that's true.
He does get an easy CSing thing, kind of like Zed, with the fact that he has to execute, so you can even be a support player. There you go, support players, roll swap to Pantheon top.
À mà hình như chút nữa có chung kết VCS hay
That's
sao?
what Pantheon's supposed to do.
But you can't show the Pantheon really
Hình như không biết còn mấy phút nữa có
I
được.
looked for Sona Taric.
Có chung kết của Phe Hồng Vũ với EVOS.
Because you'd have to be Joeing as well the entire time. Mr. Shot Barrage narrowly avoided there by the Griffin players.
Do you know the only people that played Sonar Taric in solo queue?
Who?
Deft and Tushin.
There you go.
He gave up on that real quick, though. So maybe not the best of experiences from teammates here as...
We got a Realm Warp. It's going to come forward. Sword stole it, though. He's going to use it to try and get out, but Clit is there to pick him up. Skond is going to get him out of the way there, and things are fine.
Giving you the
Một pha chống ganh bằng cách lấy Rise.
so hard. It's like, this ability.
Which
Oh, wait, it was the other
who's
guy.
Realm Warping where?
You thought Zoe was counterfeiting a lot of things.
Oh,
We need to
I know.
investigate the black market trading of Sylas. This guy's got all sorts of stuff up his sleeve.
Well, Seismic Shove comes in the mid lane as we've got... I think this is the bottom lane, but it's getting a little bit confusing here in my Summoner's Rift.
So let's check in. We had a lot of time. We both got excited. And it's like, yes, I know all about this. We're 17 minutes in. The last execution didn't get them Infernal. No kills, no deaths. When does Griffin start to say, well, if we don't get that Baron by 22, things are struggling? And is it still the same equation of 2 minutes before Baron spawns, get the Baron, win, don't lose? Where are you at right now with where the items are and how the game is playing out?
Right now, I think that, I mean, a lot of people are looking at this, they're seeing Griffin with a 2,500 gold lead, 1 Infernal Drake, another one coming up. I'm looking at it like Griffin is in a do-or-die situation right now, because I think if this game goes another 9-10 minutes, it's become so hard for SK Telecom
Are there
to
item
lose.
purchases that we're looking for
And
here?
upgrades.
Because is there anything in particular? What is the break point where you're like, oh, that's done? Like, I understand you want to see just in general 2-3 item builds on more people, but is it the front line? Is it the back line? And who needs the items to start winning against this team?
The Talia and the Akali are going to be the main focal points because the Olaf building the redemption with the Cinderhulk
Phải
is
biết
not
tướng
going to
gì
deal a
ở
lot of
đường
damage.
bot của
Pantheon
người
having
Phi.
failed and purchased so many control
Talia thì
isn't
với
going to get
Ba
the
Theo.
Blade of Drakthar until way later in the game. So it's very easy. Look at the amount of magic resistance on the side of SK Telecom. How does Talia and Akali deal damage? And the Sylas especially, when he went for such a utility build, this game is heavily favoring SKT right
It
now.
almost feels like this might be all
Baron còn 50 giây để xuất hiện.
I think we might know who's going to win game 1.
Yeah, SKT looking for their second
Khoa di
one.
chuyển từ
Teleport's gonna come
đường
in
mid
from
của
Griffin.
người
They
Phi
do not want to
bị
get
cướp
this
rồng.
one away. It's
Ai da tranh rồng.
He's going to join the fight. Half the health bar now on the Dragon as Lahens just happy to walk on over, gets Khan out of the fight as redemption. Does come down. It's going to be a 50-50 as Tarzan is in this pin. His sword goes into his first focus. The steal comes in. Griffin have locked down the
Lehen vẫn còn sống.
in the back of the pin is trying to
Chovy.
frustrating finally. Teddy locks him down and now Tarzan.
Chovy solo kill được
Chovy is now waiting in the gates, but SKT
Olaf.
don't care. They get themselves into the correct position. Pick themselves up a double for their man in the mid lane, and SKT may have turned it.
Griffin get the steal, but SKT's able to make it front to back. This is the time they were looking for.
Yeah, this
and
is
they want
another
this
realm
last
warp. It's Faker's one this time. His True Shot Barrage is even going to help try and take Chovy down. Remember, there's no turrets up here, guys, so this might be the great escape, but Khan has a lot of movement speed. Chovy's just so scary, they don't even want to fight it.
Wow.
Vẫn chạy thoát. Vẫn chạy thoát. Vẫn chạy thoát từ đường giữa của người Phi.
And because it's 20 minutes, if you waste too much time chasing the Akali, who is so hard to get to, things can go wrong. Big thing to note here is, yes, the objective is stolen, but to do that, SKT can get into a defensive formation. Then it looks like every other team fight you've seen at home that you played in, where the AD carry gets to free hit and the threat level goes down.
Yeah, and the thing here is that Chovy, he just can't get into the fight until it was too late. Teddy jumps into the Dragon Pit. Chovy jumps immediately at the opportunity to enter into the back line, but it doesn't matter because the back line is now the front line, and Griffin doesn't have any members remaining, and they just don't have the damage to win these. They got the cherry on top with the Infernal, but they're not out of the woods yet.
And if you're not outnumbering with your globals, then things get so much more honest with Griffin. Suddenly it's, wait, Talia can't do damage to backlines. She can only kill the front. As Teddy's going to be able to get out. Wait, it's Pantheon. We know it's very famous how his scaling really falls away in 5v5 fights, especially. None of the champions on Griffin really excel in 5v5s. Most of them are skirmish and 2v2 champions. So because of that, when we're seeing honest objectives to be fought over, think Baron, think Infernal Drake, you don't outnumber, everyone shows up on RSVPs, and suddenly Griffin is looking very mortal in game number 1.
Well, right now they're looking for some control around this Baron, and they have managed to achieve it. Khan split pushing on the bottom side with teleport in hand will mean that SKT can keep pressure on this map.
Bên SKT có tới 4 cái đồng hồ hương đèo. Trừ AD ra còn lại có rừng đã sử dụng được. Còn 3 cái đồng hồ hương đèo.
And now are we already at the point where it needs to be sleight of hand from Griffin? So Griffin needs to show one magic trick and then reappear in the top side and steal the Baron. Like, how do you problem solve your way out? Because they didn't play to our expectation early game, but got a really nice lead. It felt like they could ride it through, but suddenly it does feel like SKT are liking their position.
Yeah, SK Telecom, I think, are just in a fantastic spot right now. If you're Griffin and you run through all the scenarios, what can you really hope for? You can't pick off any of the members on SK Telecom. They all have too much magic resistance, and it's too easy for them to just remain slippery against the Griffin team comp. You can't suddenly Weaver's Wall in and do a
Từ Ba Theo để back faker. Hủy UR tele. Tele từ swap.
Actually blocks Chovy, has to flash to get over the top. Mata goes golden, and is Faker falling down? Mata the next one to follow, and SKT can't re-enter this fight.
It was so big that they could stop Faker from getting out because they could actually set up a very different scenario to Infernal. They were able to keep SKT from grouping as a 5, from defending their AD carry, putting out max damage, and this is what you can do. We talked about magic tricks, sleight of hand. A realm Realm Warp here interrupted, and suddenly Weaver's Wall and all other temporary terrain. Watch this and notice how different it is to the fight that SKT won around Infernal.
And even though Clid was shadowing Faker, he was still just way too far up. And so the Pantheon ultimate and the Weaver's Wall gets access to him in situations that normally it shouldn't happen because SK Telecom, they know that this is coming. Yeah, this is the only way SKT can lose the game. And you know, against Kingzone, this is how they were starting to falter at certain points. Khan and Faker needlessly overextending for waves without the coverage of vision. It's getting picked off.
And that's why we're picking your brain and you're going through the 100 scenarios and you're like, wait, 91 of them say SKT win from here. But is it about the mistakes from a team, or is it about the team looking at that and saying, all right, 91 things are gone from our team, we've got 9 left, which one is going to work and when? And I think that Griffin have shown that they are not a team just waiting for an enemy mistake. They're trying to force mistakes. It doesn't always work, but that was one of those few scenarios that gets them some breathing room. Still work to be done.
Yeah, also SKT may not have as much preparation against this particular bottom lane. There's a reason why Griffin have pulled it out in this particular series, so SKT might not necessarily know that they can just wait things out and be able to just straight up win.
One of the things I want to talk about right now is Mountain Drake. We talked about how the Griffin team composition can't really do Baron. Well, Mountain will certainly help it.
What about the fact that it is a Drake, though, and it will force a 5v5 fight that we've already seen doesn't necessarily go their way? There are extra items. Hex Drink is done. Everyone's buying double magic resist at this point. So yes, they really wanted LS, and it does help their primary win condition, but how much are we going to index into it? Is it a Tarzan steal attempt? They want SKT to start it and then just send Tarzan, hopefully, on a one-way trip to steal it and get out, but I think SKT are smelling a rat, and they're being a lot more defensive.
Oh, Sword was looking for it. With the abduct, Realm Warp's going to come in as Faker joins this party. Sword survives just because of that Zhonya's that he had available, but that's a big button and means that Griffin are going to struggle to engage against this SKT comp.
Now, no ult is used, and he has the Glacial Fissure, so E into R is actually a lot of crowd control and a potential initiation tool. It's not quite Onslaught of Shadows, but he does actually have that important ultimate as face-checking that brush is at your peril.
Yeah. Tarzan loses about half of his health bar. Chovy clearing out some control wards here as SKT do need to be careful. There's the Weaver's Wall.
It doesn't last that long anymore, though.
Yep, SKT need to try and dive over this one. Khan in fantastic flanking position as Sword's trying to keep him out of there. Are we going to go for the smite here? Can Clid get himself into this pit? They're getting it down very, very low. Mata misses the ultimate, unfortunately, as Chovy's over there. Good knockback comes in. It is going to be picked up by Griffin. And they just flash their way out. They're happy to grab and go.
SKT doesn't pull the trigger. They've got the comp, and they seem to simulate a 5v5, but they're more looking for chance picks with the Glacial Fissure, and after the Glacial Fissure was used, SKT kind of gave up on a full fight.
Yeah, they gave up on the full fight. They looked to come into mid lane, clear the mid wave, and then raise the mid-tier 1 turret. They're going to get the Scuttle Crab in front of the Baron, so now they're going to know if Griffin try to start it, or is SK Teleca okay? They're just going to clear out the vision.
I want to illustrate item-wise that, yes, Yoma's Ghostblade was there for a support, and you're like, here's the carry items. That plan, after those few mid-game fights went away, notice the itemization now coming through from Lahed. He is a stun. Maybe, if he comes in super late, gets a chance kill, but he's nothing else. He can tank Baron a little bit better, but it just plays into the It's all SKTs, but they're not there.
Yeah, well, Clid is going to try and come in for the 50-50. Can he actually get the Realm Warp once again, going to try and put Faker in the pit, but no, it's just for the vision. He gets on over, but he's
vẫn giữ được Baron.
Đến
từ Griffin không chết một người.
Very aggressively dives into the Baron pit, but Griffin once again hits the grab and go.
And SK Telecom, they're trying to stop the backs, but they're not going to be able to. And now, Griffin, they found their way back into the game. They have to do a lot with the Baron.
SKT
Griffin đã quay lại ván đấu với một pha anh Baron. Trên lệch vẫn tiếp tục là 2 cá tiền.
Let's go back to what LS, the foremost expert on Taliyah Pantheon, literally, we're not even bigging you up here, this is the truth.
It's just
2 cá đến 3 cá tiền.
We know that if they don't get the Baron, they lose the game. So a 50-50 chance right now when you can't win team fights is way better than not winning a team fight that you can't win and then not getting the Baron anyway. So they roll the dice and they have to go for it.
Exactly. It's either going to be 10-90 or 50-50 at the Baron. They rolled the 50
Click
knowing
phải tốc biến.
that it's the best chance that they have. Mountain Drake possibly helps out there as well, shredding away at it. And now with the Baron, they have more time in this game.
And a 2-level advantage on their jungler as well, so Tarzan had a few extra 100 of damage to try and help secure that Baron.
And some teams can't recognize their best moment because they're looking for the flawless moment, the 90-10 play. This was a 55-45 play, a 60-40, maybe just an honest, to God, 50-50. But if they don't take it, they lose. And we saw Origin in this spot against G2, needing to pull out a Baron, not getting there, and then losing due to a lot of other stuff happening afterwards. They missed their window. Griffin didn't really have a window. They're basically robbing a place. They robbed a Baron. As, Khan and Clid need to consider their options.
Yeah, Chovy making it look like Akali wasn't actually nerfed, as he's just playing around underneath this turret in the Shroud.
Professionally undefeated, 7-0 on the Akali.
Yep, True Shot Barrage was, I believe, swords, as it flew through and hit his own player.
Well, at this point, though, look at the amount of work that Chovy's managing to get done on his own. He's a one-man army here in top lane. And he got so much chip damage. Finally, the mid-tier 1 turret's going to fall. But the silver lining here for SK Telecom is they only have to weather the storm for another minute. And then Griffin is going to have to repeat the same song and a dance.
But remember, if Akali has 2 lane assignments where she wins, because right now Akali's looking pretty fearsome in both lane assignments. I think Ryze hits an item break point where he can out-trade an Akali, but it's not always reliable. If Akali can win both side lanes, the one thing Griffin will always do is outnumber first, because they've got all the globals, right? They're able to find picks. So if Akali is a 1, the other 4, it may not be conventional. It certainly doesn't crack turrets very well. It does do some things well. And again, you're looking for the low percentages, but Griffin need to problem themselves again, because they were already in such a hole. They managed to pull off 2 big moments, the Infernal, the Mountain, and yes, the Baron. And yet, we're still looking at so many futures where SK Telecom's standard comp works against a comp that has a lot of creativity.
And this is, again, I mentioned it just a moment ago, that a way that SK Telecom is faltering in this game, identical to the way that Kingzone were managing to pick them apart inside of the games and wiggle their way into potentially winning situations. And then SK Telecom, they patched up their faltering in the mid-late end stage, and they managed to pull through. Are they going to be able to do that against Griffin?
Well, LS, you had me at wiggle. Fun word. Great, best word we've used on cast so far. How do you wiggle? Is it just try to make something happen around the 1 Akali, or is there any other wiggle room? Because it's another Mountain Drake, which, yes, is nice, but it feels like we're running out of things that SKT will get Magic. There's no more rabbits to pull out the how it feels. I feel like we've seen so many Magic tricks, we're getting bored of Magic. We want some League of Legends.
Yeah, well, Weave as well is going to come in. Preyseek is not going to stop that one from coming down, and Clid has no want to head towards this Dragon Pit at all. He had the smite, had everything available, but wanted to hold on to his life as SKT feeling like their backs are against the wall. Sword's going to transition here.
And you're pointing to what I wanted to point to. I feel like a trade, if you can defend Baron for another 3 minutes, the chance of getting a super duper high roll Elder trade for a Baron, defending 2 sides of the map as a 5v5 champion, 5v5 comp like SKT's, is actually really, really hard. There's a limited amount of vision to defend 2 sides, and remember that there is going to be more vision at all times available. Another benefit of Frostmancy, as you have those extra wards, and even the spotting ward on the Taliyah.
Yeah. It's all coming up Griffin here when it comes to controlling objectives, but we still know that SKT, they have a team fighting composition. They theoretically should have an easier time running front to back, but Griffin haven't let them team fight for the last 15 minutes of this game.
And again, just like I was saying, front to back team fight, predictable fights happen around an objective you must contest. In 3 minutes 50, there's 2, and so maybe the fight doesn't have to happen for Griffin.
Well, right now, they're just trying to put Chovy in a side lane. The Akali has pushed that one all the way up. Mid lane as well is now being dealt with by Viper and Lehens. And Sword's going to happily deal with this minion wave heading towards the inner turret. Outer falls for SKT, so they move themselves within touching distance of the gold. About 3,000 is going to be the lead here for Griffin. And at 33 minutes, that's basically nothing.
Yeah, and
Hai rồng đất và 2 rồng lửa.
They have all the priority right now surrounding this Baron. It's coming up in 5 seconds.
Vẫn trên nhau 3k tiền.
Side lanes have to be fixed. You can see the Faker not quite in position. He has the teleport available to
Rất
him.
khó cho SKT.
But I feel like we're just going to see a team fight. And now, interestingly, normally, this would be a bad position for a normal team comp. But remember, Weaver's Wall and
Một pha khởi động Baron từ
it doesn't matter
SKT.
if you control these nooks and crannies.
Nhấp nhả.
Down to about half health here as Faker did use the run walk to get himself into the Baron pit. Now Sword running away from Teddy, who is certainly a man who deserves a lot of respect at this stage. Cleared, looking for a knockup. Won't find Lehans, who has GA, has the passive.
My read is Griffin wants to defend Baron. I don't think they can start a one objective. So watching some of these
Rise của Faker vẫn đang rất là lực.
take that into consideration.
Đã có 4 phù thủy trong người rồi.
Baron being taken because they can't allow that 5v5. For now, they get SKT away. They clear some control wards. They buy some time to mean there's 2 big objectives on the map.
Yep. 2 teleports for both teams as well, guys. So Chovy on this in the side lane, Faker as well was up towards the top side. They can be there at any time. Khan as well now is going to be taking this blue buff, and then will also be able to enter any fight that SKT want to. Hands it over, in fact, to Teddy.
Gives it over to Teddy. The Baron still alive on the map, and like Papa was talking about, with Elder and Baron both being up on the map, you're able to offer a proposition to SK Telecom and propose a trade. And obviously Griffin, they want to get the Elder, because a 4 Elemental Drake Elder Dragon, they can just then actually teamfight SK Telecom and plow right through them.
Có vẻ như họ lên đầu cát để
okay with getting the Baron and giving Elder to SKT, because if that's bloodless,
chống lại Higiri của Khan.
SKT is just one Infernal, which is obviously the one you want if it's gonna be one, but it's gonna be a decent trade. Here we go.
Yep, staying over the side of the wall. Mata does break it though, and there's the knockup. Mata finds it this time. Lehans down to the GA teleport from Griffin as Chovy is finally found the line. But you can see it's Griffin trying to hold this one up. Khan goes golden, gets the ultimate off an SKT. They found the team fight they wanted, and they should be able to find the Baron a minute before the Elder.
They punch the Magician in the face and say, we're fighting now, and the Boxer is going to be the one that profits. The minion wave, though,
Một pha rờ quá ghê đến từ
the
Faker.
game will not end here, but that is the sort of fight Griffin can't afford to let happen.
And Griffin now, I mean, they're going to have to do the smoke and mirrors to come back into the game. SKT, they're going to pick up the Baron. This is going to convert into Elder.
Baron thuộc về
How
SKT.
does Griffin come back now at this point?
It was so sneaky. It was such a ninja maneuver. For the last 20 minutes of this game, Griffin has been avoiding SKT at every turn. Finally, SKT managed to get a bite into them. And it feels like now it's so much more difficult for Griffin to repeat.
Defending Baron is all about posturing, and we know they have no ace up their sleeve. They cannot win front-to-back 5v5 team fights. Teddy is able to just free hit while Khan gets an amazing blank here. The timing on the onslaught shadows after the stopwatch is genius, because if he had ulted earlier, his teammates wouldn't have been in position to actually pick up the kills.
Mid của người Thiên bị cô lập trong tình huống giao tranh vừa rồi.
Now they've got the Baron and they say, Griffin, fight us for the Elder, otherwise you ain't getting it.
Well, Viper does manage to get the Rift Scuttler here, so is going to have permanent vision, or irremovable vision, for the next little while.
And well, right now this is really big for them, because Griffin, they know this is ultimately going to come down to a 50-50 on the Elder. If they get it, there's 2 questions. At what cost does Tarzan just end up dying for it? But are they still in a position to turn with the Elemental Drakes, bolstering all of their damage?
There's just no way to get it without
Càng kéo về dài thì có vẻ như tem của người Thiên có lượng sát thương không thể lớn như SKT được nhỉ. Con rai của Faker mạnh quá.
Yeah, feels like it's already been done, Papa Smithy. Teddy does so much damage that
Một cửa dành cho
did not
SKT.
last very long at all. First one does fall. Not going to push any further forward. As SKT wait for another minion wave. Not actually moving into any other side lanes where inner turrets are still available.
They're looking for a realm warp, maybe.
Potentially. Finally, with a gold lead.
Nửa cây.
Almost for the first time here for SKT. It's half the health bar of Viper goes missing.
Round warp into the Elder Pit. They've been able to defend this one. They know that Griffin is in their base.
They've got a guard horse here as well, Papa. Teleport going to come in as Lehans gets into position. Chovy.
Lại một pha Chovy bằng đầu cát.
Down from Lehans as Viper. Has to go golden this steal as the Pantheon man drops his way into a 4-stack Elder Drake. SKT is still going to be able to grab the kills
Griffin bị hủy diệt.
Chovy's gonna try to buy time. He can't do it. What did you get, Elder Dragon? What did it cost? Everything. SK Telecom team.
Chovy một pha solo kill của Chovy. Với Khang. Wow. SKT thấy có một pha R quá trí của AD của SKT. Quá ghê.
In Jump Shill and man, shades of Worlds 2016 with the Ezreal True Shot Barrage. Pray somewhere.
Pha R cuối cùng ghê vãi. Ngăn chặn không cho Chovy quay về. Thắng ván 1. Trận này đúng ghét luôn á. Trận đúng ghét luôn. Ủa nhưng mà bên VCS có thi đấu chưa vậy?
In SK Telecom, they played to what their team composition needed to do. They weathered the storm early game, and in fact, the bottom lane for SKT played phenomenally against the Pantheon Talia. They were going even. They gave up the first blood, didn't really seem to matter. They gave up the first Infernal Dragon, that didn't matter either. SK Telecom patched up a lot of their weaknesses and didn't let this game get to the King Zone kind of game.
And the biggest benefit here is while it wasn't answering Sona Taric, suddenly you don't need to ban Talia or Pantheon.
Cái tem hồi nãy hình như nếu mà đánh cận về lane là Griffin đánh không có lại. Bên kia có Rai. Với lại Chovy đường mid của Griffin bị cô lập nhiều quá.
But I just want to draw your attention to the post-game breakdown because this shows exactly what Griffin was trying to do this game.
Hình như bên Griffin là phải để cho top đánh chống chịu.
Until SKT finally managed to utilize all the damage potential that they had.
But Atlas, guess what a participation medal doesn't get you? It doesn't get you that first Griffin title. It doesn't get you a seat at MSI, and it doesn't get this curse off the back of Griffin of being the best international because they just can't get it done in the big one.
And I mean, SK Telecom, I mean, they came out with a message here in game number 1, and if you're Griffin, you probably feel a little bit uncomfortable. You came into game number 1, you had Pantheon Talia. Probably caught SK Telecom.
Mà sao biết sao bên Griffin kiểu nó biết tem gì ghê, biết Talia với Pantheon đi đường boss nữa. Meta mới.
Guys, remember that's only game 1. We still have a whole best of 5 to go. We're going to take a short break. And then when we come back, Griffin versus SKT will continue.
Nó xếp lịch thi đấu đúng ghét luôn á. Nó để LCK với VCS nó xếp chung một ngày. Thiệt mỗi lần có cái này là phải bỏ cái kia, cái kia phải đi xem lại. Chán. Một pha R. Ủa không tôi lại pha đó hả? Có một pha R bán chí dễ sợ. R pha cuối.
20살. 그것은 치열한 전투. 우리를 억압하는 모든 것으로부터.
Blood Star, what are you doing? I love you. Thank you so much.
Whoa, Jazz, what the frickety frick? Whoa! Whoa!
The whole gifting subs thing, that is magical.
Lực trực tiếp dành cho điểm 1 ở trong giai đoạn đi đường, nhưng chúng ta hãy cùng hướng đến giai đoạn cấm của phase 2 của cả hai đội tuyển. Evos đã cấm đi một vị tướng khu vực đường giữa là Lck, phía bên kia thì BB cấm những vị tướng đi rừng. Trước đó họ cấm Redside, bây giờ họ cấm Javan.
Như vậy Phong Vũ tôi nghĩ rằng sẽ đánh Lysandra đường giữa và đẩy con Sylas này lên trên. Do đó là họ chỉ còn lại lượt.
모르실 수 있어요. 세상에 없던 말이거든요.
4차 산업혁명 시대라고 부르기엔
아리야, 사무실로 가자.
단지 산업의 혁신만은 아니니까.
5G 시대라 부르기엔 통신을 넘어 모든 생활을 바꿀 거대한 변화니까.
앞으로의 시대를 SK텔레콤은 초시대라 부르기로 했습니다. 초시대, 생활이 되다. SK텔레콤